So hello everyone that's joining us. I'm David Pointing, the CEO of the Australian Power Institute. It's really great to have you here in our first of two sessions in the Power Summit on our industry insights, getting inspiring career stories from experts at our member organisations. A quick bit of housekeeping, firstly to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands and waters that we're meeting on all around Australia, and to pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging of the Indigenous communities, and to recognise the contributions they make to Australian community and indeed to the power sector. And to acknowledge that we have our new partnership with Career Trackers Indigenous Internship Program. They're part of the summit this year, and we're really happy and excited to have them joining in the summit as well. We are recording this session and all sessions in the summit, both to share with our stakeholders and our members and also to capture the learnings from that. So keep that in mind. And as good meeting practice, because we're in Teams, you are able to turn on your camera and your microphone. So we just encourage you to mute your microphone until normal practice when we're chatting. And otherwise, if you're not across the summit, we're running it over the 3 days. The sessions are available on demand, and we look forward to having you join us, particularly for the final session when we'll talk about the winners of our student presentation or the video competition, and you can have a say by voting in our People's Choice Awards if you haven't done so already. And the way that you do that is go to the Summit website. You can watch the student videos, which are the recorded ones, and you can go to the student presentation comp and voting, and it will take you through to our online voting. So, you know, there's cash and glory in it for a student, but more importantly, it's a chance to get feedback from yourselves and from industry on their videos. So I encourage you to do that. But our session now and another one tomorrow afternoon is focused on sharing insights from our industry organisations. So I'm going to pass to Kendall, who will run the session and talk through who we have with us today.
Thanks, David. First off, my name is Kendall Klingemann, and I'm the Operations Manager for the Australian Power Institute, and I am coming to you today from the Gubbi Gubbi lands of the Sunshine Coast. So thank you all for being here today. I'm just going to quickly jump into it. And first, I just want to say 2020, 2021, it's weird, right? We're missing this engagement. We're missing the networking over a coffee and a scone. So the next best thing we have is this virtual meeting. So instead of lecturing to you, having a PowerPoint and having this one-way kind of conversation, we just really want to emphasize an open, engaging conversation today. Really casual. Feel free to ask any questions as we go along. We will open to a Q&A after as well if you want to pop any questions in the chat box or just jump on the camera and ask questions at the end. So again, really relaxed. Looking forward to just jumping in and introducing first. It's good to see such a presence across the country. So we have Tyra Lee, who's from Ergon Energy here in Queensland. We've got Jason Mayer, who's here from Aurecon in Queensland. And then we've got Shad from Victoria, AusNet Services. And then we've got Erica all the way over in WA at Synergy. So we're really pleased to have a diverse membership base across the country and really pleased to have you on board for today's session. So I might just kick it off by, instead of me rambling on about you guys, more excitingly introducing yourselves and just explain your role, the organization, and what you do in your role or the impact that you're making within your organization. So I might start with you, Jason, if you don't mind, putting you on the spot from Aurecon. I think it's muted.
Yes, I am. Sorry. Hi, everybody. Look, my background is in power system analysis and substation design. So I went to university in country Queensland, but up in Rockhampton, Central Queensland University, as it's called these days, from 92 to 95. And then I worked for BHP for a few years in the coal mines, and then ended up in a smelter down in Tasmania, which was kind of interesting. and then a small consulting firm after that, and that sort of led me to Aurecon, where I've been for 20 years now. So I was the team leader for the transmission and distribution design team here in Queensland, so responsible for winning and delivery of all our engineering projects with a team of 23 engineers and technical officers. However, I have recently had a change in career path in that I now work 3 days a week and I'm studying a PhD part-time 2 days a week. So I've relinquished my role, my team leader role, and so right now my role is really supporting projects as a subject matter expert and providing technical supervision and verification and quality control and a bit of training to our younger staff, and then switching my brain to PhD study 2 days a week.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and it's a good point to make that the learning doesn't stop after you graduate. I mean, the learning continues through the workforce, in the office, on site, and even continuing your learning and your credentials through to PhDs. So really important and exciting point to make. And also just want to mention that Jason has worked alongside and with API for many years, working to develop our bursary program. He does a lot of work behind the selection of the Queensland-based students that come through. So really pleased to have such passionate, I guess, and supportive and active individuals across the industry. So thanks, Jason, for joining us today, and good intro.
And the one interesting thing is that I started doing electricity supply design in coal mines, and now I'm doing a PhD in solar energy. So how's that for a turnaround?
Yeah, it's never too late. Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And that's why we're doing, I guess, sessions like this, just to shed light on the diversity and the breadth of not only careers, but different experiences you can have in the same organization. So really thankful for your story, and we'll move on now to, is it Tyra Lee or Tyra Lee? I'm sorry.
Tyra Lee.
Okay, cool, got it right. Go ahead and just introduce yourself, and what do you do within Ergon or Energy Queensland?
Yep, so hi everyone, my name is Tyra Lee Mcarthur. I graduated from QUT. I did a Bachelor of Electrical Engineering and I majored in Power. So I've worked for Ergon since graduating, and I look after the substation design standards for, I guess, our company, and I focus on power transformers. So I have got into this little niche that I love. And so I look at writing the specification for my company to go out and basically procure transformers and do the design for power transformers for different projects. So I love the investigation side of it as well. If there's a failure, I get to go out into the field or dig into some of the results. And I was super lucky recently. I've been able to travel overseas for about 18 months. And that experience allowed me to bring back some of those learnings from other utilities or manufacturers, which has really had an impact on our latest work.
That's great. Where did you go overseas?
A bit of everywhere, to be honest. Like I started in France and went to Germany, spent time in the US, Canada, India. I was in Spain. It was crazy.
Things went a bit rogue. Good for you. Awesome. And you mentioned you're on site and you're also in the office. So I think also important for young engineers or people considering a career in engineering that it's not just all hard hats and, coal dust on the field. There's also office, and there's also that perfect balance that a lot of people find office and site. So that's great to have that perspective.
Yeah.
Now we'll move on to Shad. Can you introduce yourself and what do you do at AusNet?
So hey everyone, so my name is Shadman. I graduated from Monash University here in Victoria. Bachelor's of Engineering, majoring in Power Systems. Did my graduate program recently with the Major Transport Infrastructure Authority down here, working on rail projects and the traction power side of things. Then recently moved to AusNet. It's been almost about 2 years now with AusNet. I'm with the standards team. So essentially a team of engineers maintaining and developing our internal engineering standards for our transmission and distribution business. So yeah, it's basically my day-to-day task involves coming up with solutions to problems that people have within the wider business when they look into installing a new piece of equipment into our network.
It sounds like you're a good guy to have on the team helping solve problems. Thanks, Shad. And last but not least, we have Ergon on board, who also, similarly to Jason, does a lot of work with us for our bursary program and helps us select bursary students and develop over in Perth. So welcome, Erica.
Hi, Kendall. Hi, everyone. So obviously Synergy WA. So I'm not an engineer. So, I'll dull things down a little bit for me. But I essentially look after our graduate program here at Synergy. I've been involved in graduate programs for about 12 years. So worked BHP, Rio Tinto, and a few other companies just helping get their graduate programs off the ground. Started here about 14 months ago at Synergy. Didn't have a graduate program or vacation student program or any real program. So pleased to say that we got voted first year in number 29 in Australia. So we're hoping to get top 10 next year. So really important about bringing new people into the business, giving them an experience. The API bursary program, look, definitely want to get involved with that. We've had some great success with that. Our first VAC student and API bursary holder, Lachlan. I actually just saw his video. It was fantastic. Very proud of him. And we'll be certainly hoping that he'll want to come and work for us as a graduate. So he's seeing that as a pathway. So it's just generating these pathway programs for young engineers to come over to Synergy. And Synergy has some amazing opportunities. Yes, we still burn coal. We've got gas turbines, but our sustainable projects coming out, our wind turbines, our solar, our VPP projects are really cool. And it's very sexy for some of these young engineers wanting to get involved. So it's about bringing that to the forefront, say, hey, good time to join Synergy because things are going to change very quickly over the next 5 years. And we can give you a very diverse experience at Synergy, which a lot of companies, the Rio Tintos, the BHP can't do that. We can. So it's a really cool time if we're going to be competitive and all, which I am.
Yeah, I think I see that. And I guess it's important to note that without people like Erica and teams like Erica, people like Shad and Tyra Lee and Jason might not have ended up where they are if they weren't recruited earlier. So that's a great overview of what you guys do and a great, breadth of different areas and specialties. So now for students, considering maybe studying engineering, they're not sure, maybe they're deciding between law and engineering or science and engineering. What can you say, how did you get into engineering and what inspired you to pursue a career in the engineering space to begin with? When was that spark and how did that happen? And I guess how can we maybe help students that might be right on the edge to identify that themselves? So Tyra Lee, do you remember what inspired you? And
so I think I always was, I loved like the maths and science subjects, I guess, at school. So all my teachers were always like, oh, you're going to go into engineering. So I definitely felt I fell into engineering. Was like pushed into that direction. But choosing, I guess, then if it was civil or electrical or environmental was high on my list. I think it came down to just realizing just how lucky we are that we have electricity. And so for me, that was, one of my major, major goals to basically how can I, maybe provide electricity for others that don't have it. So I really just wanted to make a difference. And that's how I thought I could make a difference.
Absolutely. There's not many careers that make such a direct impact on society. And electricity, like you said, is such a fundamental need and resource of humanity and civilization. So to have a little slice of that pie and responsibility ensuring that that continues for your state, your country, is really cool to say, and really awesome and motivating to keep you going forward. So appreciate that insight. And what about you, Jason? What sparked your interest? Sorry, you're on mute again.
Sorry. First of all, my dad wanted to be me to be a lawyer, so I chose the exact opposite. But I suppose more seriously though, I've always I was good at the sciences and always had a fairly inquisitive mind about how things worked and why, and you know, that kind of is what drove me into an engineering field. And then I had to, do that whole choice. But at Central Queensland University, they made the first 2 years common. So I actually got quite a broad range of all three of the main sort of disciplines in engineering. But it wasn't until I started getting some vacation work that I really chose, electricity supply engineering, because I really like substations and wiring, and I found all of that quite fascinating when I did work at the Mackay Electricity Board. So, and then, you know, in those sort of second year subjects, I really enjoyed the power. And once again, you know, electricity is everywhere and society is 100% reliant on it. So I felt job prospects were pretty good. So yeah, it wasn't. It was a gradual journey, I guess. It wasn't something that I knew straight away. So first of all, fell into the engineering side of it, then explored that for a couple of years before I made a decision. And I was just lucky that the university that I chose actually deliberately kept the course very broad for the whole first 2 years. So I didn't have to rush into a decision.
Yep, and let you sample the different things behind each discipline. I think that that's a great approach. And I guess for those universities that don't have those programs, I know a lot of them, year one is general and general engineering, and then you can have a couple units that might be mechanical, electrical, civil, things like that to kind of have a taste. But I think work experience is also an awesome option. Sorry, it's just starting to storm here. It's going to be a little bit loud. But an awesome option to be able to test the different waters into different sectors as well. Because sometimes within one organization, you can have an experience in different sectors of that organization and just find out what you're passionate about, or even just as important, what you're not passionate about. So
yeah, my first vacation work was with the Mackay Electricity Board, which is now Ergon, and their vacation student program was awesome. You got over 12 weeks, you spent 2 weeks in every different section. So out on the lines, in the workshop, in the engineering sort of section, like all over the place, and you got a really good taste of the industry. So yeah, that was really the turning point for me, which must have been at the end of second year.
Yeah, that's great. You had that experience.
Yep.
Shad, what was your experience, and how'd you get into engineering? What inspired you?
I guess for me, similar to when I was finishing with year 12, was quite curious about technology and new technologies, and how things worked. Sort of led towards me choosing engineering as a degree in uni. But yeah, I guess until about third year, didn't really know where I want to specialize in, because at Monash you do get the option to either go towards telecom or electronics or power systems. But in third year, I did get a VAC work with City Power and Powerco here in Victoria, which is another distribution company. And yeah, went through the 12 weeks of placement, and really enjoyed, working there. My time seeing, what the day in the life is for a power engineer, and I could, tell myself there's something I could do in the long run. So went back to uni after that, and then chose a lot of power units in my final year. Really enjoyed it, and then applied for different grad programs, and then got into the power industry.
That's great. And that's a good point to bring up, that you don't need to know what you're going to do in year one or in high school. You just have to have that passion for curiosity and for learning, and I guess just being open-minded about all the different facets of engineering. And yeah, it took you third year, and here you are now. So never too late to, I guess, make your decision. There's Tyra Lee, who knew right away what she was good at and what she was passionate about. And then there's, you know, Jason and Shad, who took a couple of years in uni to figure it out. So don't feel discouraged, I guess, if you're a student in university already, year one, year two, and you haven't made a decision. You're still right in the midst of things, I promise you. So it's not too late. And Erica, I think you can bring a really fresh perspective to this, because you've seen different people from all different backgrounds, different study. Why do you think that a student or somebody thinking about electrical engineering, why do you think it's going to be a really fulfilling, exciting career for them, and how would you sell it to them?
Well, as I was saying earlier, the future, well, it's bright, hello, pardon the pun, but it's going to change all the time, and it's going to be diverse, and there's going to be so much opportunity. We're always going to need power, and we're going to need bright minds to come in, again, pardon the pun, to come in and look at new ways of doing things. And my advice to those who may be in a position of not sure what you want to do, go out and get the work experience, and be prepared to work for free, because not everyone's going to pay you VAC work and pay you that actually quite a good wage over the summer. You're going to have to go in and go to companies and say, hey, I'm prepared to come in for 1 day a week to get this experience under my belt, and don't pay me, I'll intern for nothing. So if students are unsure, go and get the work experience, get out there, because also it's that bridging the gap of theoretical and practical application, which is so important, because we learn so much theory at uni, don't we, Jason? Because you're the theory man, especially if you're doing a PhD. The practical application is what's going to drive your career. So get the work experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And even so my son went into uni 2 years ago. So we went through the process over the last few years of helping him get to that point, and we literally went and knocked on doors of architects, and well, obviously I had access to engineers here, because he was not really sure. He had some ideas. He wanted to get into urban design, like building design and things like that. And it wasn't until we went and sat with the engineers and the architects and others, and they explained what they did, that he actually put together what was going around in his head was actually structural engineering, and that's what he's now doing at uni. So that was a process that we started when he was in year 11 or 12.
Yeah, that's awesome. He's lucky to have a dad with so many connections and amazing different career pathways to bring that in, to let him sample. Because yeah, those one-on-one interviews with people, whether it's your neighbor or a relative, or you know, somebody that you know of through university, a lecturer, just having those coffee catch-ups or a question here and there and asking questions is more valuable than you know. And I think people appreciate being approached also for their expertise and knowledge, and are more often than not willing to mentor and also provide advice if you're unsure or you have any questions about a career pathway. So I think that's a really great tip to give Jason. And within our bursary program, so our scholarship for undergraduates studying electrical engineering or interested in a career within the power sector, we've just started this year to develop a library of experiences. So this is kind of why we're here during the summit, is our 30 bursary holders who undertook placements, so work experiences over the past few weeks, 12 weeks over the summer break, have recorded 2 to 5 minute videos on their experiences, just verbalizing what they've done, showing. A lot of them have done tours. I know we've got a Wilson Transformer rep on, Victoria, hi. Great tours of the factory and great insights into the offices and places that you'd never see unless you were an employee. So fantastic resources for students to check out. You can go through and see what, I guess, experiences that you could gain and say, no, I don't think that sounds right, or that sounds really interesting. And LinkedIn. I mean, what an amazing resource. You can find these students on LinkedIn, send them an email, send them a message. And if you have any questions, they'd be happy to help too. So just like Jason and his son, there are people out there, there are resources out there, and we're all happy to have the conversation. So I just wanted to make note of that. Going forward, I guess for students studying power engineering already and hoping to secure internships as well as graduate roles, what types of, whether they're soft skills or micro-credentials or any other additional training or traits, do you guys see most valuable in the current climate working within your organization or the industry in general? Does anybody have any recommendations right off the top of their head? I know I put you on the spot a bit.
Heaps. Heaps of recommendations. Okay, so what I guess, yes, we look at an undergraduate degree, or looking at what units they're studying or what discipline they're studying. Rock up to an interview semi-prepared with some communication skills. You'd be surprised. We get some very, very bright candidates that cannot get words out of their mouth. If that's an area of development, they need to go away and develop that. Universities certainly don't work on that with the students. And doing some really simple things like researching a company that you're applying for, like really researching it, because that's really impressive. It shows us that you've taken the time and that you're really keen to be put forward. So those soft skills are really important. And there's a lot of studies that have shown these are a future work skills shortage, those soft skills. So we have that as part of our development workshops for our graduates. But if you've got some good communication skills and you're a vacation student or a student coming in, going to interviews, it's going to put you up there, because that's something then we don't have to work as hard with you on if you come onto our graduate program. And time management is the other one. So I'll leave it there. Everyone else has got their ideas.
I think that's an important point to make. I know a lot of us get hung up on the technical knowledge gained and the theoretical knowledge gained in university, but sometimes the soft skills, especially in today's world, I mean, we're sitting in our offices in our pajamas in our rooms just talking to each other through a camera. It's really hard to practice our communication skills as we used to, last year and the year before. So I think instances like going out, even though it's uncomfortable, and inviting somebody to a Microsoft Teams or a Zoom chat, whether it's a bursary holder or somebody in your course that you see on that email list that's doing that group project or the same, email them, ask them to a Microsoft Teams. It will be awkward, but it will develop your communication skills and it will develop your confidence. So I think that's an easy, simple way to practice, and they're in the same boat. So you don't have to feel intimidated talking to maybe a seasoned professional in the industry. Start with your neighbors, your family, your classmates first. Thanks, Erica.
Yeah, look, I agree with everything Erica has said. 20 years ago, we used to recruit our graduates based on their grade point average, and we would only take first class honours students and, all of that sort of jazz. That didn't work out very well for us, to be honest. Now we look for people who can actually, who are relaxed, confident, able to communicate, and have a passion and have done their background and can explain why it is they want to get into our particular industry and what sort of things that they want to do. Some of the best candidates we've had, their marks, if you just look them on marks, we probably would have thrown their CV in the bin, but because we've changed the way we do things, we've picked up some fantastic candidates. And in fact, the fellow that took my old role, when he was a VAC student and we asked him to apply for a job, we actually gave his application back and said, "Oh, it's not very good, you better do it again." And so he's now my boss. So it's not all about your marks. Certainly they've got to be there in the background and be solid, but there are so many other things that we look at now.
Yeah, I think just identifying if you have the passion and you're excited about the career, then you'll figure it out. If you do uni, you pass your courses, you learn so much more in the work environment and in the professional environment that it's just, yeah, that passion is the first ingredient and the first step. So
Yep.
And look, just another thing that I don't do anymore as part of my recruitment process, I don't aptitude test. A lot of companies are hung up on aptitude tests. Aptitude test is not an indicator of someone fitting into a company culture, because we can teach technical stuff. We can teach that if you're willing and able to learn and be open to learning. We can't teach attitude, and we can't teach humble and grateful. So the aptitude tests are now out the window because it doesn't indicate how well you're going to fit into our organisation. Some do, but I don't want. I'd rather spend that money, because they're quite expensive. I think they're about $300 a pop. I'd rather spend that money on developing the grads or the vacation students, or having a function which they can network at or something like that.
Yeah, attitude and passion is what I'm getting. And Tyra Lee, any additions or similar?
No, I think, yeah, everyone's covered it. Like for me, I was worried through uni that I didn't have the programming skills, because I never, picked up that as a child or was interested in computers. So like I felt like I wasn't good enough to be an engineer. But once I got into a company and realized that it's more than the technical skills, and yeah, like I could play on my strengths as like, yeah, communication, just listening to people, and like I cared about stuff and cared about our customers, what I think really got me across the line.
That's great.
Or my confidence back, I should say.
Yeah, great advice. Thanks, Tyra Lee. And Shad, what about you? Any other additions?
I guess, I could definitely relate to what Erica was saying earlier about, researching a company when you go for an interview, or, things like communication skills are a very important skill to have in any workplace, not just engineering, but at the same time, another thing that I really feel is important is having a can-do attitude. So, if you're open to, opportunities or open to learning new things, I feel like it'd take you a long way in any workplace. So at the moment, I do get different opportunities within the organization, whether it be related to my role or whether it be a side project or something. And, if I'm up for it, I do see that, often I end up learning a lot more, and, making new connections within the wider organization, and which is very, very important skill to have as well.
Yeah, and that I guess stems from the confidence and from the communication skills in order to network. And I guess that's a perfect segue into networking, because I remember being in university and I like to think that I'm somewhat confident, but networking events, all of a sudden I would just turn into this different person, and I would get scared, and all of a sudden I'd forget my name and basic, things to talk about, to small talk with. And I think that's something that's also changed and developed a lot in the past 5 years, because we are, as an industry, identifying that soft skills are just as important sometimes as the technical theories and skills. So encouraging the networking events, it's harder in this climate, of course, but when you get invited to something, I think this is my advice. All of a sudden I'm asking myself a question and inviting myself to this talk, but to my bursary holders, my advice is to say yes to the invitation to talk at the scary event that you don't think that you're worthy of, or that you think you're going to mess up. There was a reason you were invited. Someone thinks you're worthy and they want your insights on that. So say yes. And that event with your students, or that, university society, say yes, go. It will help your communication skills. It'll help your networking and skills in the workforce just can take you, to the top if that's where you want to go. So that's my little tidbit of advice. And someone who we haven't heard of in a while, David, who's the Chief Executive of the Australian Power Institute. Just wanted to ask if you had any other comments or.
Yeah, I do. I have a question for our panelists. So, Jason mentioned it before. He started in one part of the power sector, the very conventional, the foundations of our fantastic power system in Australia. Probably learnt a lot of different skills and a lot of different things, and now he's in a very different part of the same system, and strengthening his knowledge. So my question to our panelists is, at this time in history, as we've got students moving from their studies into the workforce, they've got the traditional foundations that our universities are great at doing. Where do you think the emerging need is that, if students really want to be able to make a contribution, where do you see a skills gap that they could focus on sort of bumping up in addition to all of their other capabilities? And we're talking about soft skills and the like, but from a technical sort of perspective, is it virtual power plants, as Erica mentioned, or where are you seeing a gap that they could strengthen to be really relevant?
I guess one thing that comes to mind immediately for me in the electricity industry or the electricity power generation industry is not to forget about the market side of it. So there is all the technical stuff and the equipment and the substations and the solar farms and power generation coal-fired units. But what you shouldn't lose sight of is that they only exist because there's a financial market that actually supports them. I find, with our API bursary students as they're coming through, that's one of the key questions that they get asked as part of their application process is, what is your understanding of the market? And I find there's a lot of gaps in that understanding. People don't just build all of these facilities for the fun of it. They're building it to provide an essential service and make a dollar. So there's that whole market thing is growing and changing, and it's hard to keep up.
Yeah, no, great, because it's with all of the technology changes, the market is changing, just as much, if not more, and then we add the data insights on top, which adds a whole new level of what markets can do and how consumers can interact. So fantastic, thank you. How about you, Tyra Lee? Any ideas on the number one sort of thing?
So I was just going to say, on your last point about data, that would probably be something that I would suggest is what the future is. So stuff like building digital twins. So that's like a buzzword, but it's having that online representation of a physical model, because our assets we got at the moment, we have to extend the life, and we have to do that safely. And so being able to analyze the data, I think is going to be very important. And then I guess some of the key areas there is the Internet of Things. So the communications, the sensors themselves, the cybersecurity of those elements, and basically bringing it back and helping us make decisions on that data. So
a big one at Synergy is knowing who your customer is and understanding the customer needs, because a lot of the stuff that we do, so Synergy, we provide power to households and things like that. During COVID, we had to be really sensitive about some of the customer needs. So yes, have that technical knowledge, understand the best way going forward. But what we're focusing on as on a business now is customer. Who's our customer and what do they need right now? So having that little feather in your cap as well is really important, and why we do things in a certain way. And we found out that we lost a big scale customer because they want to go green, and we're not there yet, and we're way off that. So we're under the pump now to understand our customer and their needs. So we need to change and evolve. So knowing that as well is really important, as well as all that, and that comes with that technical knowledge as well. So keeping it in sight, I guess. Don't lose sight of the customer.
Yeah, that's all good advice. And Shad, did you have anything to add, or is?
I guess for me, the other panelists have covered pretty much most of what we would normally look for. One other thing that I could probably note and could relate to on a personal level is if you do end up doing a sort of a straight engineering degree at uni, understanding the commercial aspects in the business is very important as well, because at the end of the day, we do have a technical side, but we also have a commercial side, and you need to get the right balance. So it's something that I struggle with at the start because I did a straight engineering degree, but just it's something you can pick up while you start working, which is not a big deal. But yeah, just understanding that is also very important.
Yeah, thanks, Chad. Yep, that makes sense. And you can, I guess, pick up that knowledge and expand that knowledge by asking colleagues within your workplace too, which is a great tip. I'm mindful of time. We just have a couple more minutes. I'd like to open it up to, I guess, Sebastian and Aiden and any of the other students that are on today's session, see if they have any questions to add before we wrap up. They were just in a session before, so they might be all questioned out.
I actually did have one. I don't know if my microphone's any better.
It is.
So I enjoyed hearing you all talk about how you came into power engineering and how you eventually got there. But I was wondering if it was your first choice and whether this, after you've had those experiences and said this is something I'd like to do, but was that the first port of call, or was that a contingency because something else fell through which you may have preferred? And like I really appreciate how you've been able to explain how it's flourishing and growing and stuff like that. But as a nervous university student, I'd like to know your perspective about it.
Well, I've got a good story there. I mentioned that I wanted to do the opposite of what my dad suggested, and so I found aeronautical engineering, and that was what I put on my. I don't even remember what it was called back then, but it was your university preferences. And I am so lucky that I didn't get it because I don't know where I would have got a job in Australia being an aeronautical engineer, to be honest. I would have had to go overseas. It was the stupidest thing I could have put on my preferences, but luckily I missed out, and normal electrical engineering was my second choice. And it was in hindsight, the smartest choice. So I think you have to be very careful, getting into very, very niche engineering type things, and you have to have a careful look at where you're actually going to get a job. And if you kind of stick with your traditional disciplines, I think the skills that you learn are transferable to so many different industries that you should never, have problems. But anyway, that was my story. It was my second choice, and I'm really lucky I got it.
Yeah, I might pick up on the moving to the industry side. So I guess one of the tips that I can give would be to make sure you're applying for the grad programs or vacation programs for that matter early. Those applications can take a lot of time. So I missed out on applying for one of, I thought, my dream companies to work for. So I really had to then apply for everything else. And then once I had, I guess, 2 offers, I was able to then look at not just, I guess, the work, but also the location of where those companies were based and the future development opportunities those companies would give me. So yeah, a tip would be definitely look at deadlines for those applications, because you don't want to, I guess, start on the back foot. So yeah, please, take that advice and do all you can to, put your name out there. The interviews are great practice to hopefully land your dream job.
Great advice, Charlie. Shad?
I guess for me, it's a similar thing. So, just, I guess, being honest with yourself and, understanding what you want. For me, I kind of found that power was my calling. So when I was going for grad programs, it was my first preference to get a job with somewhere in the energy industry. So, even though I did my grad program in railways, looking at the powering train side of things, but eventually I did want to move into more of the distribution transmission side of things as well. So, just having that want or having that passion about what you want to do it's very important.
Thanks, Chad.
Thank you all so much. That was 3 different perspectives, and yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, it sounds like you're in a good place to be, Sebastian, and the world is your oyster, and you've got many companies that are looking for students for VAC work and grad roles, and David and I are going to be working over the next few months on developing a bit of work to pull together all of the grad role recruitment schedules and intake, I guess, procedures for all of our member companies, and trying to compile that in one database. Which would be an awesome resource for you guys, and making sure that you're taking Tyra Lee's advice and getting on board early, and you have all of the supporting docs and everything in place to apply for these awesome opportunities. So thank you so much for everybody today for being so candid and sharing your insights. I hope it has shed a little bit of light for those who are interested in studying power engineering or entering the workforce here soon. So I really appreciate your experience and wish you all the best, and look forward to working with you this year and years to come on building and supporting the future of our workforce across the nation. So thanks so much. David, anything else?
No, just to say a big thank you to our panelists. It's been fantastic, and we really appreciate it, and we hope it's been of value to you. And we'll chop up this video and share, because there's some really great little nuggets of advice in there as well. It's all great, but it's nice little digestible chunks as well. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Feel free to reach out to David or I if you have any more questions, and we'd love to see you in our sessions tomorrow, and hopefully you can get to the student videos and vote in the People's Choice Awards. So thanks so much, and have a great week.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Bye.